Hi, welcome to another episode of the Reinvention Show. We are so excited that you're here. Please share in the chat where you're joining us from so we know where everybody is from today. I am in Florida, Tampa, Florida in the US, and it is a bright and sunny day here for us as we're moving into the summer. So for those of you that are new to the show, my name is Sherri Sutton, and I have the honor of being the co-host of the Reinvention Show with Dr. Nadia Zikambaiva. And Nadia is still traveling in Asia, but she will be back very soon, so we will welcome her back. So the Reinvention Show is a place where we come together to share how we live in today's disruptive and uncertain world, to learn tools and techniques for not only how to survive, but how to thrive in constant disruption. This is the place where we're going to share best practices, we're going to ask some tough questions, share our epic fails, and bring amazing guests. And so today, I have an amazing guest to share with you, Jeanne M. Stafford. So I'm going to bring Jeanne up here with me. And Jeanne is a certified reinvention practitioner. She is a leadership advisor, a collaboration specialist. She's the immediate past president of the National Speakers Association in New York, and she's an amazing person. And so I'm really excited to have you with us here today, Jeanne.
Thank you. And you are an amazing person, Sherri Sutton. It's my pleasure to be here. I love this show.
Well, I am glad that you're here, and I am hoping that we could talk a little bit today. For those of you who are joining us, you may have already seen it or heard it. I should say heard it because it's audible, but Jeanne has on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern time, so that's U.S. Eastern time, a show on Clubhouse. Do you call it a show?
Yeah, a room, a show.
Yeah. And I love to go. It's called Reinventing Conversations. And so I wonder if we could open up the conversation and just have you tell us a little bit about why you started that room, what happens in that room, and how our listeners can learn more about it.
Well, thank you. The journey to that room is really a long one. I believe as I reflect on it, as I look back on it, and I've spent a lot of time figuring out, because I'm at 6 months. I've been the host of Reinventing Conversations now for 6 months. And as I reflect on it and the success I feel from it and the wonderful community that has grown from it, including you, is that exactly a year ago, I had in my head that I wanted to be up earlier, much earlier, dramatically so. So say I got up at 6:30 or 7, I wanted to really be up around 5 or earlier. And I ended up going to an event in late July that someone had invited me to, and it was all around Clubhouse. And it was a in-person event. Now, I knew about Clubhouse. I had and when we're saying Clubhouse, for everybody who's listening, it's an audio app on your phone. There are many different audio places where you can go to hear people live in the moment around the world speaking and hosting events and giving seminars and all kinds of things. So I wanted to clarify for people what this is. This is one of these audio apps where people can do this. And so this friend invited me, his name is Ramon Ray, to an event at the end of July where everybody who had been in a particular room in Clubhouse gathered in person. And this was around, they were a 5 a.m. club of sorts. It was called Breakfast with Champions. And I went to this live place. And of course, the first thing I wanted to do after spending the afternoon with these people was hear them the following morning. So Monday through Friday, this room is 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. So I started getting up at 4:45 so that I could be ready to participate, listen, enjoy this room. And changing the time you get up to that dramatic a time frame is a big deal. And it required, what I needed was having people that I could check in with, it was hard to do it on my own, right? But I knew that when I showed up, I would quote unquote get on the stage in the room, and I would be able to listen and comment and have conversations live. So fast forward, I start doing that at the beginning of August, and then I take the course. I meet Nadia through my coach, which I've talked about many times, and I meet her on LinkedIn. I see what Nadia's doing. I saw she was offering a lab. Fast forward, I end up enrolling in the course to become a certified reinvention practitioner. None of this was planned. Simultaneously, I'm working this new piece of myself where I'm getting up at 4:45 every morning. I'm taking the course with Nadia. My head is breaking open. My heart is breaking open taking the course. I found it extremely difficult to take in all of that in concert with running the National Speakers Association in New York City. So there were a lot. That's my dog chiming in saying hello. And a lot of things going on. So when the course was finished, I was still routinely on this app. I'd never run a room in the app. I'd never hosted anything with any structure, but it was one of those places where I communicated. So the course ends, and you and Nadia said to everybody, if you're having trouble interviewing somebody or finding out a way to begin to prepare to present your thesis, to defend your thesis for the final project, for the CRP, start somewhere. Start talking to people about it. Start bringing people through the exercises. Find a way to do it. Miraculously, one day, mid-December, I decided I was going to host a room, and I was going to decide what I wanted to reinvent. Even though my end project was about something different, I decided that what I was going to reinvent was going to be given a new name. I was going to give it a time frame every single week, because I found that as I reflected on what I'd been enjoying from the 5 a.m. room I was in, the routine of it is transformative. The routine of showing up somewhere over and over and over again changes everything. So I decided to create a routine for myself, 8:00 every Friday. This meant a few things. I had to write it. I had to publicize it. I had to have hosts, a selection of people that would be facilitators with me, and I had to do it every single week. The routine of that opened up more of my ability to align with my work and to pull out what it is I was doing, to pull out a structure that you and I were talking about, which we're going to talk about a little bit more, the actual structure of the room. So in a nutshell, Reinventing Conversations, the audio space on Clubhouse was created because I set an intention. And I believe when you set an intention, your answer arrives. When you're really aligned with what it is you want to do, your answer arrives. My answer arrived in the form of this, being able to get up every single morning and having people to be accountable, help me be accountable, make sure I really showed up. And then learning how to use this audio app, which I had no idea, that had a lot to do with me being able to host a room, that I now knew how to work this mechanism to be a host myself. And so that's how I ended up there. And 6 months later, I'm still doing it and enjoying amazing, amazing conversations with people like Sherri Sutton, who show up to be part.
So, I'm a huge fan of your show because I'm there almost every Friday morning. And I love what you said. When you set an intention, the answer arrives. That's beautiful. Beautiful kind of way of thinking of reinventing. And I have to unpack this 5 a.m. thing here with you, 4:45. So it sounds like a reinvention of the schedule. Were you always an early morning person?
I knew that I loved the early morning, and for some reason I had broken away from it, and I had really become a person who slaps the alarm clock and just didn't have anything to bolt me out of bed. And so now I bolt out of bed at 4:45, and I still need an alarm, and they say when you change a habit, you have to do it X amount of times. I don't know what that number is, but I can tell you that I needed to do it X amount of times to feel as good as I feel. And then, as reinvention practitioners, again, something I talk about constantly, that Nadia has reinforced in me is the idea of reflecting, truly reflecting on all the things that you do, all the decisions that you make. And then I've learned that by reinflecting, we just made up a word, that by reflecting, I have a deeper understanding of why I'm feeling good about something. So as I've reflected on getting up that early, what has happened to me is I have much more energy at 3:00 in the afternoon, 4:00 in the afternoon. There's something happening to me that's giving me more energy. And so I reinvented how I got up in the morning, and it has changed a lot of things for me where I've become more productive and calmer, big time.
I love that. Maybe I should consider getting up earlier. Listening to you, I'm like, that sounds fantastic. So Nadia often talks about we don't learn from our experiences, which is what you were just talking about. We learn from reflecting on our experiences. And I would like to talk a little bit about your reflection so far. You've been doing the Clubhouse Room for 6 months. We are going to talk a little bit about your structure, but reflecting on that, what has been the greatest learning that you've had, or the greatest impact that you've seen from creating this space?
So much. I've learned a lot about myself, that as a writer, as an author, as a content producer, I always thought, I have to write X amount of articles this month, or I have to do this month. And I speak a lot, so I always have to write what I'm going to speak about. And this room has created a structure for me to deliver something weekly that has to do with a topic I'm still exploring deeply. And that has been rich, that I have given myself the gift of exploring deeply something I love by identifying a time of week it must be delivered. Therefore, I must write it. Because as I host it, I'm reading for the first 15 to 20 minutes what I've written about that week, what I would like to kick off the conversation with. And so that has been one thing, that the routine of it, the delivery, this discipline has been extraordinary. Another thing has been the random people who have reached out to me to tell me how much it means to them, what they've learned from it, where they're implementing it. And the random people who are not only listening to it, but haven't been there live and routinely listen to it after the fact in the recording. And that has affirmed my belief that when it's time to do something, you feel, what is it Nadia says, a little imperfect about, right? I didn't feel perfect about Reinventing Conversations when I recently released it. I didn't feel perfect at all. So I moved with imperfection. I moved imperfectly. And the more I moved imperfectly toward this thing I felt very intuitively aligned with, the more unique voices were coming to me, total strangers from around the world, writing these beautiful messages to me on LinkedIn and in my Instagram. And my Instagram has gotten much more robust, many more people. So, and LinkedIn. So those are just a few of the benefits that I've had.
I love that. And we'll share here how people can connect with you on LinkedIn. So Perfectly Imperfect. And what I hear you saying is your room that you have on Clubhouse is really a place for you to experiment. And so you're coming up with these ideas and you're experimenting how they may work in the world for yourself and for others. And one of the things that you do that I am always in complete awe over is you create these beautiful acronyms that are so well thought out, and there's a new one every single week. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, one of the things I know as a speaker, and something I always train my clients to do, is to have a structure planned every single time you do anything, even if you're ad-libbing, to know in your head. I train my clients to have an arc, that they create, and it has these points you want to touch. And you want to have a nice close, and you want to have a clear opening. And if there's any way you can incorporate that opening into the close, that's more magic. And then you want to have a nugget, a thing that people can depend on every single time they come to you. For me, it is now and always has been acronyms. I do it when I'm hired to do presentations for clients. I train clients to believe this way. And the reason is that it helps to take our thoughts and put them in a nice, memorable nugget that people can walk away with. That's one thing. And I tell people, one, create acronyms, and then the other, if acronyms are eluding you, go ahead and come up with 3 things you want people to take away. So acronyms is my thing. You just pointed out, you don't know people who can do that. And I didn't know that was a thing. I have been able to do that. I've always been able to do it. And I've been able to come up with it very quickly on the fly. And the way I come up with it for this room is that sometimes I'll write something that is to be presented on Friday. Let's say I'll write it on Tuesday. And if it's not coming to me, I'll spend time thinking about it. And if it comes to me, when I'm walking my dog, or when it comes to me and I'm on the crosstown bus, I always have notebook. I have audio where I can quickly say it, and then I know that's it. So I do come up with acronyms, and the reason the acronyms are so powerful in the room is because the people who are up there with me facilitating, for people who know, are not sure about this platform, in Clubhouse, you're on a stage and then you invite people up on the stage with you. And I invite moderators. So these are people who can invite more people up on stage. And my moderators have the chance to hear the acronym at the end of my talk and then comment on which part of the acronym they like. And the acronym doesn't come from the wind, although that's not a literal thing, but the acronym does come quite strategically from the reinvention practice of biomimicry, to embrace biomimicry, to embrace nature. And that in my room, Reinventing Conversations, I seek for people to lean hard into the nature of nature and the nature of our being. And right now in the room, I'm spending a lot of time in the nature of nature. And as I uttered those words in this moment, I wondered if the next 6 months will be more aligned with the nature of our being, how we are. So all of my acronyms have to do with something in nature. And my topics are around that too.
So would you be willing to share one of them so anybody who's not been in the room, they really won't know what we're talking about. So I wonder if you could just pick one that I think they're all impactful. So if you have any of them there that you could share.
Sure. One of my rooms a couple of weeks ago was about, it was inspired by a walk I had in nature. And the question of the room for Reinventing Conversations, I always have a topic for each week. And this particular week was, what will superior effort yield? And in that, I found the phrase superior effort from a plaque in the park. And I'm scrolling right now to find it. And it was in the park, and I saw it, and I allowed myself to be moved by it. I allowed myself to pause, because when I saw the word superior effort, I couldn't take my eyes off the plaque. I thought, what a beautiful thing. So this is an acronym was born of this quote. Okay, so this particular individual was responsible for a park in New York City that jets out into the Hudson River. That's a beautiful place for people to enjoy the water and to be part of this park that even has a restaurant. So it says that Paul was admired for his dedication and his calling, and respected for his intelligence and creativity in the practice of his art. His leadership shall forever be a standard of what is possible with superior effort, vision, and courage. So my process for getting to the acronym was to sit with those words, superior effort. And I thought to myself, why does this mean something to me? Where is it unloading? And so I thought, I saw this phrase in a park. I'm moved by it. The park is something that showcases nature. So I thought, which parts of this? I had already used water. I had already used air. And so Park coming back to me. So the acronym was Park. And I made sure that Park, the acronym and the descriptions used were in line with what I had talked about in my reaction to this human who was memorialized in this. So Park stood for, let's see where Park is. P, pay attention to where you walk in nature, see everything. As I had taken a moment to pay attention in part in the nature walk and to see that plaque. And then A, advocate for what you believe in and team up with others who do too. So that had a lot to do with this individual who was lauded for his superior effort in this plaque, which will be around forever. And that he had actually been part of a group of people who over 40 years worked really hard to reinvent land in New York City, to reinvent and rescale what was available to people to walk in. So I believe that had to do with advocating, and then reflect on your work and dreams and plans. I interjected a little bit of my own reinvention practice in there. And then because I was searching for a K, I thought, you know what, the funniest K that was coming to me was that karma is real. Because what goes around comes around. And I thought that individual spent 40 years fighting for something, and now I'm enjoying his superior effort. And I was reminding my listeners that karma is real. This man and his dream left a legacy as a result of their superior effort. So that's where that particular acronym came from.
I always love hearing them. I'm like always jotting them down. I'm like, I don't know where she comes up with this, but it's amazing. So speaking of superior effort, which I love that term, one of the things that you, and I see one of our Facebook users here is reflecting on Park and saying what a fabulous acronym and idea. So people are loving your work. So part of your superior effort is that you're always working to help people be a force for good and to be a force for good. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. The idea that we have never, ever, ever lived in a world that humanity has never existed at this level with more tools to do more good, to bring more change. It's a fact. You and I right now are not in the same room. We are far, far away from each other, and we are live over an imaginary vehicle to reach a lot of people. And then this will be recorded and other people will be able to watch it later. And this all happened in seconds. No multi-$1,000 team was put together to erect all this. We are now doing this on a regular basis all over the world. And this is something I want to remind everybody to be awake to use and to collaborate in such a way that we remember it is not about getting along. It is not about understanding each other. It is not about completely defining yourself before you can step into another room with somebody and call them your team member. It is about immediately uncovering, what do we want to accomplish together? And then let's get it done. I have a background in politics. I worked in politics for 20 years. I worked on campaigns for presidents of the United States of America. I worked on campaigns of candidates for governor, and I worked in the office of the mayor in New York City on economic development initiatives for 7 of those 20 years. I've seen and been around, I've been in a lot of rooms where a lot got done, and I can tell you most of the people couldn't stand each other. We had one thing in common. We had the goal. We had an election. We had an initiative to roll out. We had an anniversary to celebrate, a big, massive anniversary for the USO or the United Nations or a city or a person. Maybe we were celebrating a team. Maybe we were welcoming Nelson Mandela. Whatever it was, wherever I worked, whoever I was raising money with, whoever I was collaborating with, we had a thing in common that we were all going toward. And it is my prayer, it's my goal, it's what wakes me up every morning, that I train people to use those collaborative techniques to weave that wisdom into every exchange they have, so that we find more people that we can work with to get something done. And the magical piece of sauce, the one thing I want everybody in the world to know, is that the joy of working with someone who's different than you are to get something done is that you learn more about them along the way to the success of the achieved thing than you would have if you interviewed them to whether or not you were going to agree to, am I going to get along with this person? I'm not really sure. If we spent a lot of time being like, I'll work with that person if, nothing will ever get done. In fact, I think that's an awful lot of what's going on right now in our world, much less our country. So if we could all just figure out what we're for, and that was a big lead into what I help people get for. I help people understand what they're for through something called the devotion factor. And the devotion factor is that rather than simply living, it's living for something. It's being in the world in the name of a person, a place, or a person, a principle, or an idea. It's using what you are for as a driving force for your existence. Now, to focus on your devotion factor every day is one of the things that requires a lot of work. And it is my job to get that done while I'm here on this planet.
And I love your passion around it. I think anybody who's listening to the show can see that you're wildly passionate about it. And so one of the things I know you focus on is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And you just said that you want to help us be awake to use these tools. So what is your best tip for remaining awake, or to help yourself be awake to what's available out there, and to focus on our devotion factor?
Well, it's so many. The thing that has opened me up, and I know when I train clients to do this too, it's that there are magical hours in the morning before any sound is made in our home that I've embraced, 2 hours worth every morning, that I get up early enough and I spend enough time. I told you I have that check-in on audio app, on an audio app, and I don't even use it very much anymore, because now I get up, I have a very deep, deep, deep prayer routine, meditation routine, and then I read and I journal and I plan. And a lot of acronyms come to me in that morning time. A lot of topics come to me, a lot of refining of work that I've written and I need to deliver happens in that morning time. So for anybody who wants to figure out how to get to that place, how to be more aligned with themselves and how to work that muscle, we need more downtime with pings, noises, notifications. OFF, my friends. OFF. I have almost no notifications on my phone. I drive people crazy. I have certain groups on Telegram and different places. Someone will tag me on Instagram and they'll say, "Where are you?" And I'll say, "Well, what do you need?" And they'd say, "Well, get on. I just tagged you on this thing. You have to share it." And so now I say to people who regularly want to do that, you can send me a text with a little code in it that tells me where to go, and I'll go there. But I'm very, 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 I don't want to say guarded. I am very, I communicate clearly where it is people can reach me if they need to reach me. And I'm not overly available. Let's put it that way. Because I think when we're too available, we become like a dog looking at a squirrel, right? There's that movie where someone makes fun of the dog in the movie. It's like, squirrel, 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 squirrel. I forget what that movie is, but I think of it all the time when I think of all of us, like, wow, I'm having this great moment. I'm downloading, I'm writing this thing. Squirrel. Oh, Instagram. Oh, Facebook. All these little dings. And when I sit next to people at meetings and I see their phones lighting up, I think, oh, how can you even breathe looking at that? The phone is such an important vehicle. And we do need it, and we do need to look at it. But wow, that's too much information at a time when you're not ready to get it. So my recommendation to a lot of people is turn it all off and decide when you go look at it, very mindfully decide when you go look at it, and then have a very defined period of time you're on it and don't scroll too long. So that helps me stay.
Well, I'll tell you what will stay with me from that is OFF. She said that. OFF. And Jeanette is here from South Africa, and she said, great tools to develop new habits and acronyms. So thank you for sharing that. Well, I appreciate you sharing your magical hours. And this has been a magical half hour for us at the Reinvention Show. So thank you so much for being a guest. And we'll have to have you back on because I have so many more questions that I could ask you during this time. But I do appreciate you sharing your journey and what you're doing with us. And do you have any last words you'd like to share before we end our show?
I look forward to having anybody who wants to come tomorrow to Devotion Factor Friday. So one Friday every month, I devote to specifically the Devotion Factor on my Clubhouse Room tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. So that's one thing where I could see a lot of people.
Excellent, excellent. We'll put that up there one more time for you. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you're able to enjoy Reinventing Conversations with Jeanne, and you are welcome to connect with her on LinkedIn as well. And we hope that you have a fantastic day. So bye, everyone.